Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Better, a unique episode of Better. I think I'm going to do these fairly regularly, maybe like once every couple months, because I really like getting comments and questions from people. And as I've said, this is not a advice podcast. This is not me attempting to be your therapist. And if anything, this is my therapy, right? So, but it is interesting to get questions from people and to dive a little deeper into subjects that we talk about. I'm noticing not a lot of public comments yet, and maybe that's because of the nature of the podcast and a lot of this stuff. Maybe there's a little bit of shame attached to it for some people. I know there was for me. Maybe there's a little bit of a stigma attached to these topics. But if you guys could leave comments, that'd be even better, because then we can get, opinions and maybe not opinion. You don't really want opinions. We can get experiences and betterment journeys of the community. But I understand why a lot of these things are coming into my DMs, or people are finding me on like LinkedIn or whatever, and then adding me and asking me questions or giving me comments. Some of these are pretty pointed, and I'll deal with them. So basically what I've done is I've picked out the 10 top comments or questions that I either got a laugh out of, or I thought were particularly interesting, or allowed me to go a little deeper and give a little more explanation to something that I didn't, explain fully. The nature of doing a podcast like this is I don't like cuts. So when the cameras cut, like cut, that did not work seamlessly. Okay, cut. Okay, you can see we're not actually cutting because I'm screwing up or because we're trying to like cut this together. I am a firm believer in podcasts should be live. They should be recorded as is. So there will be times when I talk about something and then I don't necessarily fully flesh out the concept entirely. And then somebody will call me on it. And then I through this type of a format, I can actually, deal with it. So I have these 10 questions and comments from you guys that I want to jump into. And some of these are really interesting. And thank you to everybody that did submit them. I'm not going to use any names. I'm just going to, maybe I'll use first names. That's probably pretty okay, right? Yeah. Okay. Skylar says yes. So that's what we're going with. So if you're mad about it, go hit up Skylar. And if you're going to hit up Skylar, watch the customer service reps episode first. All right. Okay. So let's deal with question number 1. So question number 1 is from the first episode. This guy said, I lie a lot. I'm in my 50s and I've tried to stop. Why do you think it's so hard? It's really interesting. When I got it, we had a bit of an extensive conversation, he and I. But ultimately, I think what it came down to, what we agreed on, is the fact that we lie because it's easier, right? So you've got different kinds of lies, of course. You got lies by omission. You got outright lies. You got lies so that you don't hurt somebody's feelings. There's all these different reasons and these different ways of lying. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we lie because sometimes it's easier. And I know that sounds like an oversimplification, right? But I think that's probably we'll call it the majority reason why people lie. So instead of saying what you really feel, or, saying what you really experience, or saying what you really have gone through, you lie and you say, for example, let's say you're talking to somebody that you like and they say, this is an old school reference back to like when, people acted like kids when they found out that, when there's a crush situation happening, but on soap operas, it happens when they're 60 years old. So I'm going to guess there's some adults out there that are like this, but do you really, I heard you like me. Do you like me? And you're like, oh no, like, I don't think you like that. I could never think you like that. You're gross, but it's just like, it's somebody that's not having the ability to say, maybe it's a self-confidence thing. Maybe it's the way they've been treated through experience, whatever. But they don't have the ability to say, yeah, yep, I do. Because what comes after that could be total annihilation and rejection, or it could lead to something great, but you don't know. And the fear of the unknown is scary. And the hard things are hard by nature, because when you do the hard thing, you're doing something that requires effort and pain in a lot of cases. But ultimately, doing so makes you better. It makes the situation better. Now, it might not feel like it, right? Like, you might have a situation where you're lying to somebody and you feel like you're doing it for their own best interest. But is it really for their own best interest, or is it because you do not want to have an uncomfortable conversation, right? Now, there's little things, right? Like, let's say you're planning a surprise for your significant other, and they're like, oh, I want to do something on Friday night. Yeah, Friday night I'm working, and let's say that's the night you're planning something. You don't want them to know. I think that those are forgivable lies, wouldn't you say? Yeah, forgivable lies. But, so I'm not talking about those, okay? Just to be clear, I'm not saying that, like, if you're planning a surprise engagement, if you're a significant other, and they're like, are you planning on proposing? You're like, no, like, it's too soon for that, or whatever you say. I'm not saying that those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about the other lies, the lies we tell just because it's hard to tell the truth. Okay, so hard things are hard because at the end, the reward from doing something hard, it's amazing. And in a lot of cases, it can be life-changing. There have been many times where I've really struggled with telling someone the truth about something, and they turn around and they say, you know what? I respect that you just told me the truth. And then the relationship changes. It changes into you being someone that they can trust. It changes into somebody that they know that they can go to. It changes into, it takes it, it elevates it. It's like playing Super Mario and getting to World 8, right? You're like, you've just jumped through that pipe, you've used the flute, and these are old school Nintendo references, and you're full on into World 8, right? It's like that. It's just you level up with the person. So why is it so hard? I think it's so hard because most of our life is taking the easy road. You think about it. Think about the first ancestors of yours. Think about what their lives were like. They had to worry about survival. They had to worry about somebody coming and stealing their land. They had to worry about where the next meal was going to come from, whether they could find the necessary animals to kill in the hunt and bring home so they could put food on the table. How many of us are dealing with that? Not a lot. Our lives are pretty easy. We go to the grocery store to get our food. Most of us, I know not all of us, but most of us have if you're watching this on the internet, chances are you have some sort of roof over your head. We live a pretty cushy life. A lot of things that we do now are very easy. So the easy road is kind of a natural way to go. And I get why, and a lot of people, that lying episode really connected with people. And one person actually asked me, and this isn't part of my 10, but they said, well, do you really not lie anymore? I was like, well, no, like, I think everybody does at some point, but I will say in 99.9% of circumstances, I use that reference a lot, right? 99.9. In the vast majority of circumstances, no. And if I do ever, I hold myself to account, like I said in the podcast, right? And I go and I figure out a way to make it better. And I have at times said, I say something, I'm like, yeah, that's not the truth. Like, here's the truth. I was trying to take the easy road, and I shouldn't take the easy road. And a lot of people, that resonated with a lot of people because it's so easy to lie. Like, think about it. How does anybody know in the vast majority of cases whether you're lying? So then you can just take that easy road, and then you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to deal with uncomfortable conversations. You don't have to deal with any of that nonsense, and you can just continue on and allow this person to think that you were telling the truth. But that's why I think we lie so much as a species. because we are dealt an easy hand in a lot of cases. We deal with an easier way of dealing with things in life every single day, and it just is easier. So I guess if you're just wanting to be better, a great lesson would be don't take the easy road, because the easy road is not usually the road that leads to betterment, self-fulfillment, improvement, anything like that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Question number 2. Okay, so kind of related. Everyone lies all the time. Why should I stop? It's kind of naive to think you can live without lies. Okay, yeah, I'll give that to you. It might be naive. It might be naive to think that telling the truth is the best way to go. I get that. And you're right. I'm sure people lie to me every day, right? Little things, big things, and if the world is lying, how do you get ahead without lying? This is something, it kind of lends itself to a bigger subject. I have had several conversations with people where I say, I'll never be a billionaire. And they say, why? And I say, the reason I'll never be a billionaire is because what you have to do to become a billionaire in a lot of cases, I'm not willing to do. I have talked to billionaires that have told me that what they did to make their billions keeps them up at night. Okay. So, I'm not saying in all cases, we don't stereotype here, but in what I have seen, there have been decisions that I have made that I know have cost me major money. And it's because I didn't want to take my soul down that road, right? So it's ultimately a decision at the end of the day for you. What can your soul handle? Now, if you don't believe in the soul, I don't even know what the soul, let's just call it energy. What can your energy, what's inside of here? Because this is ultimately the organ that controls everything. What can your brain handle? Do you feel bad for lying? Do you feel good about lying? Do you feel indifferent about lying? Do you lie out of necessity? Do you lie to get ahead? Do you lie to not hurt feelings? Do you lie? What are the reasons you lie? I would never suggest lying as a blanket way of dealing with life, but you're right. A lot of people lie, and it can be very hard to compete in this world without being a pathological liar. Honestly, I know several people that are on their pursuit to $1 billion right now. And I've had a conversation with them where they say, I have a choice in front of me. And the choice is to wipe out a bunch of people, meaning their financials, their savings, their, whatever, wipe out a bunch of people and make a ton of money, or don't and continue to kind of struggle and hope that the luck comes along. Because part of success is luck. And some pick the road to wipe out the people and some don't. So it's a personal choice. Are you willing to take, this is insane that I'm saying this, by the way, you guys, I understand how crazy this is, but this is the way it is. Are you willing to take the consequences of telling the truth? And the consequences of telling the truth are, in a lot of ways, going to be painful. Again, back to the hard thing, right? It's hard to tell the truth, and it's ultimately hard to tell the truth because when you have so many people lying around you, they are going to get ahead because they're willing to do that extra thing that your energy, your soul, whatever, may not be able to handle. Mine can't. Okay, so if I tell a big lie, it eats me alive. And I do everything I can to fix the problem. But some people, it doesn't. And they're the people that can wipe people out and not really feel anything about it. So it comes down to a personal choice. I'm not saying you can't lie. I'm not saying you know, what I'm saying is it comes down to, do you want to be better? And in your betterment journey, are you willing to accept the consequences of telling the truth? I mean, that's the best answer I've got for you. I know some of you are like, but I tell the truth all the time, and I'm doing well. That's great. I'm happy for you. I'm not destitute. I'm not homeless, right? I'm sitting in my studio, looking at my camera, recording my podcast with my staff next door, in the office next door. I'm not destitute. I'm also not where I thought I would be right now. I'm not as wealthy or as independent as I wanted to be. But I know that that's because, one, my luck. Two, because I've had to make those hard decisions, and I've decided that those hard decisions, those things that some people do to get ahead, I'm not willing to do, including lie my ass off every time I open my mouth. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this is, again, I know that there are people that have gotten ahead without having to be pathological liars. I know there are people that have gotten ahead without having to lie barely at all. It's, again, about personal, your personal ability to accept yourself and what you're willing to do. I think you'll be a better person if you just, I think everybody would be a better person if they just did the right thing and didn't lie and didn't cheat and didn't steal and didn't wipe people out. But that's not the world we live in. So you got to make a choice. What's more important to you? Getting ahead in that moment, or being able to look yourself in the mirror and look back at yourself and say, I made the hard decision and I'm better for it. That's all I really got to say about that one. All right, next one. Bobby was inspiring. I agree. Losing all that weight and kicking drinking while being in the bar business, that must be hard. It ultimately comes down to willpower. Truly agree, guys. I was in the bar business with him and I never drank. And I'm going to tell you, it took some serious willpower. She asks, what drives you to be better in anything? Okay, so, the first question was from Ron. The second question was from Derek. And the third question is from Sam or Sarah? I'm going to say Sam. No, Sarah. Okay, it's from Sarah. What drives you to be better in anything? I mean, I would say the number one driving force for me is I started on a hypothesis. The hypothesis was, if I did better, I will feel better, which will lead me down a path where I can live a better life. And so far, mixed results, we'll say. But ultimately, in the areas that are really important, I'm doing a lot better. My decisions to be better, my decisions to break my bad habits, my decisions to look at myself without the rose-colored glasses on, has led to a great relationship, better relationship with my parents, has led me to being a person that people can come to and can trust and can, look to for maybe the devil's advocate side of things, right? Because I'm my best, myself at my best in serious conversations is when I'm allowed to be the devil's advocate and I can say, but what about this, right? So I would say that, it started with the hypothesis, but now it's about really just looking at it and saying, well, I got this great relationship that I would have never gotten before because I decided to be better. Okay, so that's great. My business continues to move up and up and up, and hopefully within the next, month or so, we're going to have our major investment. That has been a huge, huge thing in my life this year in 2023. It's been a battle to find an investor for my company. In fact, we found several investors and they were trying to steal our algorithm, or they just wanted me to fire everybody, wipe people out. Talking about that's something that I had to deal with this year, and make the choice whether to accept a big amount of money and wipe out my people, or to turn down the money and keep my people. I ultimately decided to keep my people and continue on and try to find the investment. So, but I know that had I not gone this betterment journey, I would never have put myself in a position to even get investment in the first place. We've never gotten a relationship I have. My parents I would not be able to speak to my parents the way I do. All these things, they add up, right? So that's what keeps me going. That's what inspires me to be better, because I know that being better, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've lived it. Being better leads to a better life because you become a better person. You become more inspired by yourself, which is kind of a crazy thing to say, because back in the day, I wouldn't have ever considered myself inspiring to myself. And it leads you just to make better decisions and have a better life. So that's that.
Yo, what's good? This is Montell Jordan. Big shouts out to my guy Jay with the Better Pod. Uh, when I had to be better or do better, I think just in life, when you get into a routine, especially for me being a husband, being a father, you can kind of get into a routine and get into a rut. And so one time I remember that I had to be better was being better at being a husband and being a father. I had to be more intentional with loving my wife and be more intentional with spending times with my kids and doing the things I needed to do to be present, not just be there, but be present when I'm there in their lives. And so that's probably a time when I had to do and be better. And super glad that your people that watched Better are being inspired to do better and be better themselves, because this is how we do it. All right, take care and God bless.
This is an interesting one. Stereotypes exist for a reason. That's it. That's the comment, right? Because we talked about destructive stereotypes, and this person says stereotypes exist for a reason. Yeah, it means there's more than one person that does the thing that you're stereotyping. It doesn't mean all. Like, that's pretty much, I think, what it comes down to. You know, if I a lot of people laughed at my thing about black people running faster than white people, right? And it's a stereotype built out of the fact that, like, look at every, not American, look at every sprint in the Olympics or anything. Like, let's be honest, the vast majority of the podium, they're not white dudes. But ultimately, it's just more than one. And you can't say, like, I can't, guys, I hate bringing up politics all the time, but politically, a lot of people will look at and say a person who supports the Republican Party in the U.S., that makes him a bad person. No, it doesn't. There are some bad Republicans out there. Absolutely there are. But they're not all bad. Like, in fact, there's a lot of good Republicans out there. And to say that because you're a Republican, you're bad, is to rob yourself of potentially great relationships or hearing another viewpoint that might actually make you think. It might actually, I'm politically agnostic. I'm right down the middle. And the reason why is because I see good ideas on the left. I see good ideas on the right. And I believe that no one side has all the answers, and on both sides people can go off the rails. But ultimately, in the end, it comes down to, yes, stereotypes exist for a reason, and that's because more than one person decided to or is like another person, but it's not all. Okay. This was actually, I took this as a pretty big compliment. This is in reference to the Tyler episode. This is from Christina. Why didn't you have kids? Talking to Tyler, it seems like you would make a good father. We're gonna get into some pretty controversial territory here. I kind of believe in universal birth control. I'm gonna get shit on for this one. I'm of the thought that if you do not have 3 things in your life, you probably shouldn't have kids. Now, am I telling you can't have kids if you don't have these 3 things? No, you might make a great father, but ultimately, as you're the exception, not the rule, I'll say. Some sort of financial stability. Just a little bit. Just some savings. I read a stat that the average kid from birth to 18 now costs $2 million. $2 million. Jesus, that's a lot of money. So a little bit of financial stability. I'm not talking about being a millionaire. I'm just talking about having some ability to save, ability to make enough money to be able to take care of your needs. Once you know you can take care of your needs and save a bit, then, you've got what you can take care of another life. Emotional stability is a big one. I did not have the emotional stability to be a father, and I knew it. And it comes down to, was I willing to put somebody before me? Nope, not even a little bit. So I should not have been a father. The third thing, and this is a hard one for some people to stomach, and I get it, but I mean, I've seen the difference between people that have and people that don't. Having some sort of support system. The whole adage about it takes a village, it does. It can be very hard to raise a kid to be a good person when it's just you. So for me, I'm not trying to throw this at you guys as this is like how you guys should live too. But for me, I believe that without those three things, it can be very, very hard to raise a good person. Okay. Not again, I do not want to get shit on for this. I'm not saying that it's in everybody's case, but I think it's generally a good litmus for it. I feel like I'm backing myself in a corner right now, Skylar. Um, but honestly, that's why I'm not a father, because for the longest time I didn't meet those three. Right, my businesses have always been my babies. I have stepped up for some kids. I enjoyed it. Never really an infant. I don't know if I could handle that. That seems wholly unstressed. It's just the most stressful experience ever. But my sister is a mother, and she has just over a year old now. My one of my good friends, they were over on Saturday with Sean and I, and we were having dinner, and they brought their 10-month-old. I'm good for a little bit, but I'm not so great at the long term stuff. I feel like, and I'm actually, this is interesting because I actually last week was really hard to balance my mom, my job, my relationship, her kids, all this stuff was coming up. And I said to her, I get it. I get why some people with businesses are shitty parents. Cause like I was scrambling to make it anywhere on time that week. And I know that if those kids actually gave a crap about where I was, I would have let them down that last week. So that's why I'm not a parent. But thank you for saying that you think I would make a good parent. I really appreciate that. Next one is interesting. This will be I don't know. Okay, I'll try to explain as best I can. Do you ever have anxiety or depression? This is from Tyler, but not the Tyler that was on the show. I will say no, because I take anxiety and depression to be more than, an instance of I'm stressed out, or I'm not feeling the best, or life is getting me down. I don't have like a string of, being in dark places where I can't get out of bed. I don't like what Bobby was describing on the show. I don't have any kind of suicidal tendencies like Jose was talking about on the show. I don't feel like anxious. I will tell you that when a situation gets stressful, I can feel my blood pumping through my veins and I start to like shake. I can feel the adrenaline kicking in. I don't know that that's anxiety because I can still function. I generally, if I'm confronted by a stressful situation, I'll generally lose it for about 5 minutes. And by lose it, I mean I might cry, I might get really, heated, but I calm down within about 5 minutes and then I confront the situation. So I don't know if that's anxiety. That's probably more of like I just gotta pump it out there, get it out. Because I think anxiety, you hold it in, right? For the most part. Yeah, would you say? So yeah, I'd say I don't really hold things in. I think that's why I don't. I'm not. I wouldn't say I have anxiety. And as far as depression, I mean, yeah, we all get sad, right? There's a lot of sad things that happen in our lives, and a lot of things that we're not intending, that we don't even know is coming. And then oh, we're walking down the street, we're going to the bank because we just got paid. We're about to go get a new car. We got a beautiful, or handsome partner, and everything's great. And then you get hit by a car, and now you're in a wheelchair. That's sad. That's a complete change of life. I know. I've been in a wheelchair twice, and it's hard to accept. But my attitude is more, how do I get past this? How do I get through this? I don't even take the time. I'll use this. Actually, this is a much better description of how I deal with things. I was once engaged, and my engagement ended a year to the day after I proposed. From the day that I proposed to that day when we broke up, it was a nightmare. And I said to myself, you were allowed to take this weekend, the weekend when I moved out of our place into my new place. You're allowed to take this weekend. Eat the most disgusting junk food you can. Cry in it. Watch the, ridiculous Hallmark, whatever I had to do. Stew in it for 3 days. 3 days. Once the third day is over and you go to bed and I wake up the next morning, it's over. You have to move on because the clock keeps ticking. And if I waste those minutes, those hours, those days, those months, those years, those decades, the whole life on being in a dark place over something that should have never happened, then I've wasted my life. Now, I know it's not that easy for some people. Depression, anxiety comes from, from chemical situations and environmental situations and societal situations, familiar situations, and all that. I get it. It's not that easy for some people to just not be anxious or to not feel depressed. But I hope that you understand that there is a ton of resource out there for you, and you can get through it. And if you just allow people to help you. So that's the answer to that. Oh, this one was, I saw this one. I was like, and you know what? Honestly, when I saw their name come up in my DMs, I was like, oh, I can't wait to read this. Victim blaming for cheating is a terrible way to start this podcast. Yeah. I was like, oh, and I kind of, when I did the episode, I was like, oh, some people are definitely going to call me out on this, thinking that I'm victim blaming. I'm not, okay? Some cheating is absolutely reprehensible. And I said that if you're cheating just to cheat, just because that's what you do, that makes it pretty shitty, right? I seem to remember saying that on the podcast, okay? But I do understand where you're coming from, where you think that I'm victim blaming. I'm not victim blaming. What I was trying to say is, when I've been cheated on, when I got mature and I got better, I realized I did a lot to contribute to it. Now, did I deserve to be cheated on? No, of course not. I would much rather them have just been like, let's break up, which would have been entirely sad for me in the time as well. But it would probably I probably would have felt a little better about it than being cheated on, because that's a horrible, that leads to all kinds of horrible, unforeseen circumstances. But when I'm honest, so I'll do two. I was cheated on because I was way too busy with work and not paying attention to the person in my life. That's a pretty popular one, pretty common, and that person did say to me, I need more love and attention. And I was like, you like the life we're living, and we're living that life because I work a lot. Like, you got to pick, right? I was that was my way of looking at things. What else was she going to do? She, some guy comes along and pays attention to her the way that I can't because I'm working so much. She's going to be like, this is pretty great. I haven't felt like this. This is going to kick up some feelings, right? And then she cheated. In the moment, was I like, I understand. Fuck no. I was livid. And it took me a while to figure it out. But, I did figure it out. Another circumstance where I was cheated on, where I kind of deserved it, was I moved without any conversation with my partner. I was like, I'm out. I moved to another country. And I don't even know what I was thinking. I was really young. So but I don't even think I was thinking, but I just was like, I'll just expect them to be there when I get back, or they can come see me whenever they want. I can come see them whenever I want. Everything will be fine. That was me being very naive. And so I got cheated on, and I don't blame her at all. But an instance where I was cheated on that I did not deserve it was in a relationship where I was super attentive, and I listened, I communicated, and I got cheated on, and I should have known I was going to get cheated on because she cheated on every other boyfriend she had. right? So in that particular instance, I did not deserve that. That is not how it should have gone down. I could not. And I asked other people, I'm like, where was my fault? And she will say to this day, every time I talk to her, she says, I feel so bad for cheating on you because you actually did nothing to cause it. Okay. So in that case, I mean, give me all the tears and all the flowers and all the candy and all the happiness and rainbows you want to give me, because I definitely was hurt on that one. And I was the victim, and I'm not blaming myself. I'm for sure blaming her. I've come to peace with it, but I'm for sure blaming her. And if you're in that boat and people can honestly look at it and the other person can look at it and say, you did not deserve that, then okay, you're the victim, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. But in a lot of cases, it's it's two people not able to sync up, not able to communicate. This is really great. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was a person talking about this is turning into a long episode. I'll try to pump through these next couple. There was a person talking about how when they get home, their partner asks them one question every single day. What's your battery at right now? And they'll say, I'm at 20%. And then the other person will say, I'm at 20% too. So we're like at an energy level, we're at 40 out of 100%. We need to do something to bring calm to our lives, and we need to, help raise each other's energy levels up. Or raise your energy level at, I'm at 20%. Well, I'm at 80. So I got you. What do you need? So I can bring you out of that 20%. So I can bring you up. And so we can meet at 50-50, right? I loved that, hearing that. I try to do that now. So, I think that that's a great way of looking at communication as a whole. I bet you couples that do that, far less cheating. Okay. We got 3 left, so I'm going to power through them. I love James Marsters' appearance on the show. He ruled as Brainiac. 100% agreed. Best Brainiac in live action and comics and cartoons ever. Was his message just kind of whatever will be, will be? I don't really think that was his message necessarily. He was kind of saying he will do his best to plan for what he wants and what he believes is next. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he can still find peace even when all that blows to smithereens. So it's not like a kumbaya sort of thing. Hakuna Matata. What was it? What did Hakuna Matata mean? No worries. It wasn't like one of those things. It was like it was more like I'm going to do the best I can. But even if I can't get there where the glory land where I wanted to go with my best, I'll be okay, because I accept that sometimes things are outside of my control. And I think that's a really great message. And I struggle with that like crazy. His message really resonated with me. I beat myself up all the time over stuff I can't control. So I was going to go into a more detailed thing, but maybe another show, because we're getting a little long here. I usually like these to be about 30 minutes. What are we at? 37? The sex was funny. You talk about Shauna a lot. Damn right I do. How long have you been dating, and how did you meet? That's a good one. So we've been dating for a few months now. Quickly, 2 years ago, I swiped on her on Bumble. She did not swipe on me back. I went through my card stack, getting through it, reload my card stack, get to her, swipe again. Nope. For 2 years. No. I tried several times. And then I changed up my profile, which made her curious about me. So she Googled me. She listened to one of my previous podcasts about relationships, felt like maybe this could be a conversation at least worth having. So when I was at my lowest, in terms of, I was literally that night saying to a friend, I don't think I'm going to find someone. Shauna matched with you. Oh, it was a moment, I will tell you. I didn't even believe it was her. I took a moment before I even swiped on it, because I was like, okay, was there another Shauna? Like, what's the deal? It's probably not that Shauna, because I've been trying for so long. I opened and it was her. And I fist bumped the air. I was so pumped. And then every conversation we had, I wasn't living in Winnipeg at the time. I wasn't in Winnipeg at the time. We had tons of conversation, 9-hour FaceTime, all this texting back and forth. I was going to stay down south. I came back One of the reasons I came back was to go on a date with her. First date was incredible. Skylar had a part in our first date, which was awesome. And it's been amazing. And I highly recommend that. I think I should do a whole episode on how you do Bumble, because I did everything wrong and I did some stuff right. So I think that that's something we should do. But if you're on dating apps, trust me, I get it. I know you can feel like it's a cesspool and you're never gonna find someone. But I mean, it's only been a few months, but I'm telling you guys, I've never been happier in a relationship than I am right now. So there's that. Um, uh, this next one is, I'm going to try to make this short. A few people ask me this. How old are you? Now this is, so I tell everybody I'm 25 for life, and I was doing that before Justin Timberlake came out with that movie. Okay. So that's my answer, and that's the only answer you're going to get. And here's the Cole's notes as to why. I met a guy who I thought was in his 40s. Turns out he was in his 70s. Great, crazy, great shape, sharp mind. Him and I were mountain climbing together, and he was kicking my ass mountain climbing. We would hang out. We would, smoke some weed together. We'd talk stories with each other. He was a doctor who was, he had a specialty in oncology, but he moved into, studying age and age-related conditions and all that. And his research and his theories led him to believe that if we don't pay attention to our age, if it's not a central theme to our life, if we're not celebrating birthdays and doing all these things with age, that we can actually age slower. There's a lot of research out that suggests this is true. It's still in its infancy, but I will tell you, when I run into people that are the same biological age as me, in terms of like born the same year or around the same year, a lot of them are not, like me. Now, am I immature sometimes? Probably, but I think it's in probably a pretty good way. And there are times I'm completely mature beyond my years, I think. So I don't focus on age. I haven't celebrated my birthday in forever, which drove my parents crazy, because they're not allowed to even call me, not talk to me on that day. But now everybody's pretty cool with it, and it's actually a great gauge with me as to whether I'm gonna fit with somebody if they can accept it. So 25 for life, guys. It's awesome. Love being this young for the rest of my life. It might be a little weird when I'm like 93 and my teeth are falling out of my mouth. I'm like, I'm 25 for life. That might be a little strange, right? But whatever. You're only as old as you feel. So that's the 10 questions that I picked out that you guys gave me, questions and comments from the episodes. Again, thank you guys so much for interacting, for sharing, for liking, for watching, for viewing, for subscribing, for all the things you do. Do any of that with this episode. And any episode we have, I greatly appreciate it. So huge for us. We're not making money with this podcast right now. We're just kind of doing it because, again, it's kind of like my therapy, but also because I like doing it. I feel like it's, especially when I have guests, really inspires me to keep going and keep getting better. So I hope you are having a great betterment journey. And if you are, and it's due to something in this podcast, please share it with me. I'd love the next one I do is to share people's stories of how they've gotten better. Okay. So that is it. That is all. I will talk to you guys again soon. Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it.